Hello from Vienna. I'm Rebecca Kerr, and today I have the extraordinary opportunity to speak with André Losekrug-Pietri. Now we're going to make some bold steps here. We're going to try something completely new. This is an extraordinary individual with multiple careers as a knowledge worker, as a knowledge leader, in defense, in private industry, in public industry. He's a French and German nationality. He's a J.E.D.I, and he will explain that in a moment. Private equity for 15 years, leadership positions across industries. 10 years in China, a private pilot, a colonel with the French Air Force People's Reserve, nominated as a young global leader for the World Economic Forum. And he started as the assistant to the CEO of Aerospatiale Airbus. All of you have been talking about how do I plan a future, how do I make a difference, how do I create value. André has been extraordinarily kind to agree to reveal some of the secrets of this kind of career. So the first thing I'd like to ask you, André, is tell us what a J.E.D.I is.
Well, Rebecca, a J.E.D.I is trying to make sure that Europe remains in the race for technology and science. I mean, this incredible acceleration that we're seeing currently. So yeah, J.E.D.Is are full of positive force. We basically fund advanced research. So we fund topics that are too risky or too long-term for the private sectors, what we call moonshots. Those that in energy, in life sciences, and computing can really reshuffle the cards and make sure that we as Europe, we as democracies remain top of the game on technology, which is so core for obviously competitiveness, economy, but also the future of our democracy. So it's really a very ambitious, a bold project. 6,000 people all over Europe. A third are scientists, a third are the top deep tech startups, a third are from industry. And we spend a lot of time trying to identify what will come next in all these scientific and technology fields. And then we launch and fund these challenges to make sure we push the limits of science and technology. So it's a very exciting, very bold project.
Marvelous. André has agreed to allow us to open up the lens and look a little more closely at how he got to where he is today. Could you comment a little bit on your educational decisions?
Well, look, I had the chance to be educated in many countries. So my two parents, one is from Germany, one is from France, actually from Corsica specifically. So I spent my childhood in Africa very, very early on. I did my high school degree in Germany. Then I moved to the French education system, where I did both an engineering degree in aerospace and attended an aerospace engineering school, and did also a business degree. And then I had an exchange in several countries, the US, but also Brazil, where I almost ended up, and because it's such a wonderful country that I almost stayed there for life, but then I returned to Airbus. That was my first career step.
Okay, so then let me take you into the networking decisions of how you connected with this kind of life, working on the network for different kinds of employment opportunities, social opportunities, etc. Can you comment a little bit on your networking decisions? Well,
I think that we are in a world, if we take a step back, we're in a world where actually it's increasingly difficult to know, to have a full picture. And so this concept of trust, the fact that you will need to take decisions, having only 80% of the decision or of the information makes that the person or the group or the environment, the organization with whom you're taking the decision is key. So very early on, I was sensitive to be able to have some trusted partners, friends, colleagues all over the world. And since I had this very international background, I always cherished these different perspectives. It's not easy because everybody talks about, yes, you need to be intercultural, but look, already between France and Germany, which are supposed to be the two closest countries in the world right now, you can see that a lot of things there are still a lot of misunderstandings. So I valued that diversity, and I also valued this concept that you really only make great people happen, great things happen if you can have a team, supporters around you, and this network has always been so curious. So I'm a natural networker, that's probably for sure. But I don't necessarily enjoy the fact to have a number of people in my network. What I enjoy is to be able to really follow up. So the fact that you regularly visit people, you regularly interact with them, makes the whole difference between one contact and a person with whom you develop a deeper relationship.
Thank you. Now, some of the people in the audience, both in person and online, are going to probably make many career choices over their life. Some may have 20 different careers. You have an extraordinary list of work that you've done in your life. How did you make your career choices?
Well, let's take a step back. I mean, when you look at my resume and you explained it, there is absolutely no red line or consistency. So some would say this guy is, I mean, I always stayed pretty long at each of the steps, but indeed, I moved from industry to venture capital, then I had a stint as an advisor to a minister in the government capacity, and now I'm running a research organization which is structured as a foundation. Each time, I really, for me, the notion of having an impact on society, and I'm personally attached, particularly about the European project, a project which is based on diversity, on humanistic values, was always important for me. So I always try to see where I can contribute. I mean, Airbus as an engineer or was a natural choice. It's initially a French-German initiative, very ambitious because it was in an environment which is very technical, very regulated, where safety plays a super important role. As you mentioned initially, I love everything which flies, so I'm a private pilot and still very active, trying to get the virus also to my kids on that one. So I always took these decisions where I saw where I can have the biggest impact. It was at Airbus at the beginning, and now very critically, at this very critical moment for Europe, for its competitiveness and its future, to make sure that Europe remains relevant in the research and technology space. So that's why I just love what I do currently.
Thank you. Now, as you talk, you've had a very global life. What has influenced your moves to different markets or countries?
Well, I had the chance. I mean, I was running. My first job was basically I was carrying the case of the CEO of Airbus operations in France. At that time, it was not merged as a single entity, and an industrialist picked me because he knew I had the experience of working with a CEO. To actually do the same, but in a family context. And so this family-owned business, which was an industrial company, wanted to diversify and set up their own kind of family office and investment fund. So they brought me into investment. So it was a bit serendipity. So there was a link. And the second step I did is another family picked me to do the same, but in an Asian context. So that's how I ended up investing a lot. I mean, in completely incredible projects. I mean, with a family owner, we bought a shipyard in China. That was back in the years where it was possible to do that. We built an office tower in Vietnam. It was really a very entrepreneurial mindset, and that really then triggered me for 10 years to run my own investment fund, which was always having this. It was not a purely financial investment fund. It was about can we have an impact through new technologies, and can we help especially European companies scale in these big but very difficult markets. So, and last but not least, the fact that I spent 10 years in China, I saw how this country was using technology and science to catch up and now leapfrog in some areas Western country. And so when the current French president was elected, and I was asked do you want to join the team of a minister? I didn't hesitate a second, because I saw that this was an incredible opportunity to serve to have kind of my tour of duty for government, and it was fantastic. And again, it was a completely different environment because it was the defense ministry.
So going along that line, in another area, you've worked in public companies, private companies, and defense. How would you advise someone? Some people might be afraid to switch lanes like that, but you were switching lanes a lot.
Well, I'm a deep believer that, this concept of revolving doors, which sometimes has a negative connotation. I think today, again, coming back to the initial statement, we are in this gray environment, plus an environment where these crises pile up. Some people call it polycrisis. That means increasingly, we will have an acceleration of what financial markets would call volatility. That means you will have spikes, great moments that are greater than before, and crises that are sometimes deeper. And so this capacity of being able to have a diverse view, and no problem is purely economic, no problem is purely political, no problem is purely NGO or civil society. You need to have these different perspectives. So what I would advise to do is try to have as many vantage points or perspectives. I mean, have a red line. For me, the red line was always science, technology, how that can benefit societal impact. I mean, that's the moonshot. That's what Kennedy famously. How can we change society with technological advance? But you need to see that from a government perspective. You need to see that from an investor point of view. You need to see that from an industrial. So I would not hesitate to change, because I think increasingly this capacity to have you know, I mean, some people call it even that we are in an era of polymaths, that increasingly you need to be specialized in a field, but you also need to know very different disciplines, because most of the disruptions, crises, opportunities will happen at the intersection. So moving from one to the other is not necessarily a bad thing, but you need to have kind of the sense of purpose that you're developing along the life. Some have it very early, some it takes much more time to find it.
In our last moments, looking out at an audience of young generation people who are going to face perhaps
That's a lot of pressure, I feel.
20 different careers in their lifetime, what advice would you offer?
Look, it's going to be a paradox to what we said initially. I think we have, I mean, when you look at the number of people that you're able today to meet, either physically, through conferences, through meetings, to business life, or digitally, it's exponentially more than what we were able to meet, what our parents were able to meet, or just a couple of years. So you have this opportunity to go to have so many touch points. I would say, take the opportunity. I mean, you can meet hundreds or thousands of people, and then you have the choice of having, on a regular basis, 10, 20, 50, 100 meaningful connections, be it business, be it private. If you need to take a choice, go for the latter. Rather go for this meaningful, insightful discussion where the trust is built, where you can know somebody. I mean, we are also in a world where we have these digital identities and personal identities. Sometimes you actually don't really know somebody. And in this very uncertain world, I think this trust component, the fact to be able to go deep, to be able to resist crisis, because we will all be facing crisis in our life, these relationships matter most. So I would go for this deeper and meaningful conversation. Make choices, and rather go deep rather than to have too shallow conversations with too many people.
You've given us all an extraordinary gift, and as a pilot, eventually we have to land the plane. Let me focus on gratitude. We are grateful that you are sharing with us your experience, your lessons learned, and that you are here with us today at the forum. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rebecca.